Sorry for the delay, folks. We'll get started.
We can't hear you. Speak up.
I'm talking as loud as I can. We're going to get started. Call to order. We got a note taker today. Tom? Okay, good. We've got a quorum. We do? Okay, good. First order of business is our Pledge of Allegiance for our minutes. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Next order of business is public comments on the agenda. Do we have anybody that wants to make any comments on the agenda that was posted to the website? Connie.
Yeah. I'm going to ask this question again. Has anybody went out to these sites where these plans are being sent in and actually walked from the back to see if things match up to the drawings?
I have not. And I'll tell you why. I don't know that we have permission to do that. I don't know that. I'd feel like I was trespassing if I was just go wander around on the Wrigley site without any kind of permission or agreement.
You actually don't have permission. All you're allowed to do is go on the roads, public roads around. That's it.
And so then when actually you'd be better than not even looking at it because you don't know what's there, what's going to help keep the township from being liable for any kind of possible losses that could come from neighbors.
I have looked at it using Google Earth. I'm sure everybody else has.
Unfortunately, Google Earth's not accurate. I've seen that before in the past. It's not always accurate. So that's just that question. Couple comments about data centers. After the last meeting here, there was something brought up to me, said to me about something new. It's called node data centers, and basically they're the size of a heat pump. And a span has teamed up with NVIDIA and Pulte Homes to place these on the side of the new house, on these developments. And the gimmick or selling point behind the whole deal is save on electric and internet for a flat rate charge of $150 a month. Well, I know first, and who's to say they're not going to come around, and start asking people with existing homes, do you want one of these? Well, I know I personally, and I know others that do not want these things near them because of health issues. So, just something to think about, I want to throw in there. There was a podcast that was broadcast last week, and guest on there had many different titles, but she said basically her job is equivalent to OSHA, but for public health. There is no real title for that, but she said that's going to be the equivalent. And it talks about, audible noise, and it's the noise you can hear, and it's measured, as you all know, by dBAs. Then there's what they call tonal noise, are lower pitches than the audible noise. Tonal noise has biological impact. It targets expectant mothers by raising their cortisol levels and causing increases in maternal fetal heart rates, resulting in early term labor and low birth weights and low birth rates. It causes disruption to livestock mating and psychological and physiological impacts. Farmers watch the cortisol levels closely because it affects the milk production and quality as well as the meat too. Huge impact on the average human. Tonal noise puts the body into a fight or flight mode constantly. Industrial exposures are normally 8 hours of tonal noise. Now, industrial exposure are in residential communities 24/7, 365. The low magnetic levels, fields cause the tonal noise. Electricity, fans, transmission lines, etc. And it even ruins crop turnout too. OSHA, the EPA, is designed to protect the workplace workers. There is no one to protect you in the community, okay? So there are no regulations to track the 24-hour exposure to the tonal noise. Absolutely no standards whatsoever. Tonal noise travels farther than audible noise through the ground, compacted soil, buildings, transmission lines, etc. It goes farther at night because it's colder on the ground and hotter Solar farms actually create a lot of town homes too, from the inverters, the converters, the storage batteries, all that kind of stuff. Diesel generators on the site, some have more than a couple hundred on the site. I'm not sure if Pennsylvania requires this, I haven't looked into it, I should. Diesel generator air permits, the particulate matter 2.5 microns is extremely difficult to filter out and it goes deep into your lungs. I believe we were talking that you guys are talking about decommissioning as well. Is that correct? In the ordinance we have currently, the one you've been working on. And if not, it should be in there. One of the, I don't know if you guys have heard about this last week or the week before. Lake Tahoe residents, there's approximately 50,000 of them, are told they're going to lose their power in 1 year. The power company is redirecting the power to the new data centers. They have to go find a new supplier. So it's something else to keep in mind. Just bring up something you might want to consider attending. Next Tuesday night at 6 p.m. at the Big Beaver Volunteer Fire Department. Switch is the company that's going to be building the large data center of 400 acres where the racetrack was along. They're holding a town hall. So if anybody needs the address or whatever, let me know if you're interested in attending. I can give it to Dave and he can get it to you. But I would recommend going down, checking it out. It's probably going to be a packed house because, we can hear all the way up here. We'll do it that noise here. It's not that far by the way we live lives. And that's all I have at this time.
Okay, thank you, Connie. We will be working on the data center ordinance here, coming up. I'm sure you'll have opportunity to provide input. The noise is a big thing. I think we're going to limit that, the amount of water they use. I think our first cut will be a framework.
Yeah.
And then as we learn more and things, there's improvements throughout the Commonwealth on writing these things better, we can adopt them.
I know the Commonwealth is working on passing something. If you don't have it in, before they do that, then you have to adopt the one they're doing. It may not be as strict as what they're doing. So something I'll look into, try to do that as well.
Okay, any other comments on the agenda? Probably want to get moving here. Okay, we have to review the minutes from the April 28th, our 28th meeting. Did anybody have any comments on the meeting minutes from April 28th?
Make a motion to approve the minutes from April 28th.
Motion to approve. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Meeting minutes from May 4th, the working session.
Make a motion for those minutes.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, motion carries. New business, Patriot Automotive, land development, preliminary final. Tom, do you want to give us a little bit of insight on that?
So previously they had gone to the zoning hearing board for approval to put parking in front of their facility. The zoning hearing board granted that approval. Then they came in for a subdivision to split the two buildings that are on the property, or single property, to split those into two separate units, which they've done. Now they're ready to put the stormwater and parking in. So it's a land development plan, so that is what is before you today. Again, it doesn't deviate from the prior approvals that were done. It's just more of a procedure that is required to be able to essentially put the parking in front of the building.
Can you put the plan up, please?
I cannot.
Oh, yeah?
For whatever reason, I just have no control over where anything goes on here. It might be this
You can't mirror
laptop.
your
But
screen? You can't mirror your screen to that?
I'm not even going to try because it's not going to go. Tonight didn't.
Does that reach?
Okay, we're going to do this. Want to trade places?
basically, Tom, your letter's pretty fine.
Yes.
Okay. I only had a couple of minor comments, and they're actually probably technically not even relevant given this administrative approval, right?
It is not, because it's land development, there's no administrative approvals for land development. There would be for subdivision, not for land development. So it goes through the planning.
Oh, so it goes to us anyway.
Exactly.
Okay, so it's not.
Regardless if it was a 1.5 addition or anything like that, it does require your recommendation.
Okay, I only have a couple really minor comments. And who are we addressing here? Okay, my comments have to do with, we could, just go around, right?
Where's the property at this time?
It's the bottom, Scott River.
Right across from Scott Woods.
Okay.
32 on Perry Highway, and it's right at the spot where, Scott Ridge hits 19.
Where you took the trees down?
Yes.
Okay.
So are you the engineers for that? No, just you, okay. My comments are really simple. You could go to the page that had the parking lot, I think it's page 2. And that's, okay, we can you zoom in here. Keep going up a bit more. Okay, my comments are related to the ADA. The ADA parking here is a bit flawed. You have to connect the ADA accessible path, which is this sidewalk, to the ADA access point to the parking. Now that can be done by swapping those two, but I also see another problem, and that is, how do you get into this spot? You can't get into it from here, and this isn't your property, you can't get into it from here. I recommend simply rotate this, put the slashed area right here, and the parking right there. So you can pull in and park ADA. That way you'll meet the ADA requirements. Everything else looks good, but you can't get to that spot, and that has to connect to that.
Just a second. That driveway is a dual driveway, and they're across easement, so that both sides can use that driveway.
Is that true?
That is-
Oh, so there is access?
Parking on the side of the ADA, there's another parking spot for the garage doors going towards you, so that is accessible. That was written in the easement that they have parking.
Okay, so they do have access to drive in this way. Okay, and the only comment I would have is swap those two. Put the slashes here, put the ADA right there. Then you'll meet ADA requirements. That's it. It's that when you exit the vehicle, those slashes have to connect to the ADA accessible path to the entry. And there's your ADA accessible path. This doesn't connect. You gotta go across the parking area. That's it. If you can get to those spots, just swap those two. Simple as that.
I can probably get that done.
Yeah, simple as that. It's real simple.
Yeah, I can have that change on the drawing.
Yeah, that's all. That's my only minor comment, trivial comment, just easy to correct.
And those all comments you had, Bob?
That was, let me take a look here. Oh, I did have another question, and that was more for Tom. Is there an NPDS required?
They're under the threshold, so they're.
Okay, no NPDS. Okay, that's it.
And they're looking for preliminary and final approval today?
Correct.
Okay. We have to go through 2 separate recommendations.
You do, because again, the plan doesn't call, it's a weird scenario, I would just do 2 separate motions.
Okay. So this was before us over a year ago, and they're just updating it. Is that right?
Well, the subdivision was exempt, so it was an administrative subdivision, because there's only 2 lots.
Okay.
So you haven't seen this, again, your goal is to look at the parking, so there isn't a whole lot of substance there, but it is a requirement, it is land development, so that's why it is.
Now I remember. Yeah, the first time was subdividing the 2 lots. Now they're coming in with the plan. Okay.
I don't know that there is any lighting in the parking lot. Do you have any lighting proposed?
the upper area, but there's no lighting on the parking lot.
I didn't think there was. It's not for their business.
Okay, do we have a
I'll make a motion,
motion to
approve the preliminary, whatever.
have a second?
Second the motion.
Okay, all in favor of preliminary approval?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, motion carries. Now I'll get a motion for final approval of the plan. Contingent on changing the ADA parking.
So moved.
I'll second.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, motion carries. The final. So you've got your preliminary and final approval from the planning commission to move forward. We recommend that to the supervisors.
Do we want that reversed, or if it goes on the drawing, or do you want the drawing reversed, resubmitted?
It doesn't have to be resubmitted to us, but it needs to be corrected in the drawing at some point before you implement it.
When is your comments going to Butler County, the motion covered that reversal?
The motion covers the reversal, correct?
Yes, so if it goes to Butler County, I don't even see any reason to change, we'll get the drawing changed. But whatever, if we need to do that, Tommy can do that.
Yeah, before you give it to the supervisors for signature,
I'm gonna have to.
before you give it to the supervisors for signature, you need to change that. Butler County, you send it to them, they'll review it, they'll provide comments, the supervisor will act on those comments, just like they will act on their comments.
Now, if when your engineers are changing it, what you could actually do as well is change it to, instead of an 8 and 8, you've got an 8-foot handicap and an 8-foot access, which is correct. You could also make it a 5-foot access and an 11-foot parking, still 16 foot, and then you're going accessible. You can put a van accessible. It's the exact same pad area, it's just painted a little differently. That's it, and you have an accessible sign. Yeah. Okay.
All right, thank you all.
Okay, next on our list is Pine Valley Estates, land development, preliminary and final. Tom, you want to give us an overview on this one too?
So Pine Valley Estates, again, has a administrative subdivision in the works for approval with the township. They're proposing a building 16 by 22 for their water treatment system to meet DEQ requirements for the people in the mobile home park. So essentially, this is a land development for that building addition, which is in the middle of their property on their existing water treatment plant site.
Can you go to that page then as well? Yeah. Who's representing this group here? Anybody?
They're out of state, but
Oh, that's right. Very nice.
something like that.
Are there any residents in the audit? Is there any residents here that wanted to find out about it or object or?
My comments, question for you, Tom, related to parcel, I know it says parcel 3. Where's parcel 3? That's the wee little sliver up there, isn't it? The big ones are 1 and 2. It'd be on the right side. Isn't that parcel 3 right there? Yeah, I can't read it. Slide up a little bit. Nope. Move the plan up that way. Up right here. Right here. This chunk really confused me. Apparently, there's a tax map issue between a couple parcels that both claim this triangle ground. My question was, in this subdivision, shouldn't there be a consolidation deed? And then that would then correct these boundaries, at least the boundaries up to this point. There's got to be some resolution of that chunk, I would think, in during the subdivision I would think that a consolidating deed or consolidation deed should be done to fix that, those two parcels together. Maybe that's a solicitor question more than a Tom question. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, they had apparently surveyed the property, and their survey line was different than is what the county shows. To me, the survey would govern those discrepancies. Maybe I can have them expand upon that so they can see that.
Because normally when I see that, and I see a re-subdivision of something, I would see a consolidation deed to merge those two into a parcel, rather than have one or have two parcels. But it's more of a comment than an objection, because I don't have any objection to what they're doing. I just had that technical point that but this should have consolidation.
Does note 7 say that they're consolidating?
No.
So see note 7 right there.
Yeah,
Note
it's
7 is-
area of overlap between parcels number 2 and 3 based on descriptions and instrument. Wrong number.
Yeah, it just notes that there's a discrepancy. It doesn't know
Right.
how it's being addressed, fixed, or anything else. So that was my own comment.
Well, we know the residents here are having water problems up there, and this thing that they're building or implementing, this structure is part of the well house, is that right?
That is correct.
Yeah.
Part of the treatment needed for that system so they could have more reliable water.
So time is of the essence to push this through. So they're also looking for preliminary and final
That
approval.
is correct. On the subdivision plan, just because it was raised as a question before, they can't build any more mobile home pads or anything like that without going through the conditional use procedure that was added on the drawing. So it's simply just, in your case, what you're looking at is an addition to that water treatment plant.
Okay. I get a motion to, motion for preliminary approval.
I'll make the motion.
Okay, we get a second?
Second.
Second, all in favor? Okay, motion carries. A motion for final approval of the plan.
Make that motion.
Second.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, motion carries. So Pine Valley Estates, you guys are able to move forward. Does it go back to supervisors?
It will go back to the supervisor.
And what did they, I was there and I'm not even remembering, what did they approve at the last meeting?
They approved the subdivision aspect. They deferred on the land development portion.
Does this have to go through Jackson Township too?
It does. And they're currently reviewing, I think it's through their process already. They've already.
Okay, we'll move to the next one. Log Cabin Inn Development, final plan. Tom, you want to give us an overview of your findings of the final plan?
So again, we talked about this before in the preliminary plan. Since that time, they have received a highway occupancy permit from PennDOT for the three entrance location points as opposed to the general location entrance now, which is all across the front of the property. They've also detailed the access point for the right to access the development area for the stormwater management pond. They've provided a summary of the agreement, I guess, for the parcels that overlapped on neighboring property. There's agreement in place that they both them and the adjacent property are signed, indicating their willingness to do easement for that. So essentially, that's the changes that since the last time. So their stormwater pond is in more detail, more exact. They have access to it now.
They do not have a fence around the pond currently proposed.
They haven't currently shown as a fence, and again, the ordinance says it's up to you whether you recommend that fence be put in or not. So they've showed it, we left it on there, if it's desirable, we have I guess it would be nice to have an opinion whether you want to see that fence or not have a fence in that location.
I'm gonna recommend that there's a fence because the supervisors have required fences on other ponds recently. Okay, so that seems to be the direction they're going. And rather than not recommend it, and that just causes more chaos for the developer because they don't think they need one, then later they do. I think we should recommend that the fence be put up. The supervisors can decide to eliminate that if they want, but in keeping with what they've been ruling lately, I'd rather just get it on the record and get everybody understanding as early and as soon as possible.
And again, that is shown that way on the plan, so.
As you know, I'm not a huge fan of fences around.
Neither am I.
lawns, and I wouldn't recommend it, but I don't care much either way. I'm just stating that.
We didn't recommend for the last one, the supervisors
I know.
made them put it in, so I'm just gonna stick with what their preferences for that.
I do have a couple of comments here, if you're done, Tom. And do we have, you guys, the engineers in this, oh yeah, engineer and owner, I guess. Okay, my couple of comments relate to, number one, the letter of intent or memorandum of understanding, whatever that was, really isn't worth much. What we need is an easement. That's what has to be. Everything else is just that paper really doesn't mean anything. So we could do something contingent on them getting the easement, but we cannot do it related to having a memorandum of understanding or letter of intent. That does not happen. My bigger question though is where we have grade lines on the road to the pond. I don't even know how to guess on that. It looks to me like it's going to be more than 10%.
That is correct.
I don't know where we're at, so without knowing that, I don't know.
Yeah, they added a note on the plan saying won't exceed 10%. But if you could explain maybe what you have, or some of your data you have, to show what that percentage is.
Sure. So we are working with the neighboring developer, and we don't have a grading plan for that yet. But when he grades that trail down there, it's actually going to continue on, and we're going to split off to the basin. So we'll be working with him to make sure that doesn't exceed 10%.
I understand that you say that. The question that I have is you're going directly perpendicular to the topo lines. That's the toughest way to guarantee any percentage slope.
Sure.
If you're going to chase a topo line or cut diagonally across them, you can make anything you want there. But when you're going perpendicular to them, you have to hit whatever the grade is of that. I didn't actually print it to scale it to see what those distances are, but my gut's telling me there's no way perpendicular to that you're going to hit 10%.
Have you run a cross section through there yet to see what it is existing?
I'm sure what Jonathan has, and I apologize as I'm filling in for him tonight. So I'm sure we have that data, but I don't know if I have that off the top of my head.
Because that to me is the biggest question. And I'm personally not married to 10%, and I would seriously entertain a waiver for something in excess of 10, but I need to see a number.
Sure.
You know, if you come in and you say you're 22%, that's bigger than I'm willing to waiver. But if you say you're 12 or 15, it's probably, yeah, we can make this work. But without seeing a number, I don't know what to say. I was hoping there would be something here tonight that would give us some slope on that road.
Gotcha.
But I just don't see it. That's my biggest question.
And it was one of our requirements, and again, the response was we won't exceed 10, which I understand, but it's.
I hear it, but I don't see it. I don't see that ever making 10% right there. I could be wrong, but I've looked at a lot of topo before, and I don't see that making 10%.
I'm just looking here at the plans. I have a scale of the car, so I can run it out and scale it.
Actually, it's a simple way to do it too.
Yeah.
If you go with the zoom out there a little bit there.
I was gonna set a scale, but I knew I was probably making people sick zooming around.
Oh, maybe I need glasses. We could take, if we zoom out on this. Oh man, I can't. Is it gonna clean itself up?
Well,
If you
Oh,
zoom
there
in,
it
you
is, there
got
it is.
this is
Good, 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 good.
1070,
Okay.
this is 1080.
1080, 1070.
Yeah.
Scroll up just a little. Oh no, that's the other way.
there's another 10.
Oh, wait. There's a, so 80, 82, 4, 6, 8, call it 90 at this point, down to 62 or something at the other end. And if we know, if you can give us what that length is, actually we can get it off of here. what's that length of that line? You zoom out just a little bit.
357.
Yeah, but we need to see how far that is. Zoom out a little bit more so we can see proportionally. So 357 from here to here. If we say 2/3 of that, 2/3 of 357 is what? 240. Somewhere in there? 240 over, so we've got 30, 62, 30, what is it, 20, 28 feet, 28 feet in 240 feet. 12%?
My
Okay.
maps just looking at my page here said like 14. So
Okay.
I think we're in that 12, 14 system.
I'm willing, personally, this is what we can discuss, I'm willing to make a recommendation of approval to not exceed 14 or 15 or something like that. Keep it a hard and fast number, except it, assuming a waiver of not to exceed X. If something like that makes sense. Because I can't say you're gonna make 10. And I hate to go and give you the go-ahead to say, yeah, you're gonna do it, and you come back next month and say, yeah, we're gonna make 10.
Yeah, to get that, you probably have to switch back a little bit to revise.
You would.
it. Yeah,
You'd have to meander and chase the contours back and forth with S-bend or something to make it happen. But I personally don't have a problem with 15% on the access road to the pond.
Okay.
That's just me. So I want to hear what everyone else says.
15 would probably be my limit.
I agree. If it was pushing 18 or 20, we'd be like, we're going to do something else. But if you want to go 14 or 15, I think we can approve it conditional on receiving a waiver, getting a waiver request not to exceed 14% or whatever the number is for that length rate.
Okay, so there's some contingencies
Make
there.
sense, Tom?
It does. I mean, some of the townships we have, they have an actual road slope of 12%.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's not that far off. It's not excessive before with the use. Again, you're getting a truck in there, you're potentially cleaning things out, it's not going to be used once, twice a year, so.
Yeah, 14 or 15 would be my number. And upon receipt of the waiver request for that. So conditional on receipt of the waiver request. And what else do we have on this?
They had some parking that was off of the property line.
Yes,
So that letter of understanding covered both the basin access and those parking spots on this, or I guess it'd be the south, but the left side of this plan set.
right
That
here.
are over the property line. That letter of understanding states that the neighboring property owners will work with us on both of those things. And like you said, obviously it's non-binding, we'll work with them to execute that, and it'll be done before final approval.
So the contingencies are the slope.
So I
slope
make a
and
motion to approve this contingent upon the access road not exceeding, what do you want, 14 or 15?
well, yeah, let's say 14.
14, not to exceed 14, because you'll be able to play with it at 14 out of it, I think. Anyway.
Yeah, we can make that work.
Not to exceed 14%, and second upon easement agreements for parking improvements and access.
And then we also have to do we have the subdivision plan, up for review tonight too. You have a copy of that. I brought my copy here. But he's actually purchasing, not just getting an easement for the little section that was over, right?
This one right here.
Yeah, right there. He's actually purchasing that. So we do have a lot consolidation plan under review for this month as well. I don't know if that needs a separate motion or if that's just combined with plan development.
It could be one motion to do the final plan and the consolidation plan. Again, there's 2 lots currently on for the log cabin, and those were intended to be combined into one. Now there's just little pieces there for that retaining wall area, they can combine that in. So all the notations on the plan are already there, so that's property.
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
It's about 400 square feet.
So we're with the fence, fence, grading, and the executed agreement for property.
Easements in the lot line division or subdivision inclusion. Right? You got all that?
And I do believe a waiver request submitted
for the percentage difference. And whatever that is, you'll have that, hopefully that detail before the supervisor's meeting, and then you can do a formal waiver request.
For sure, yeah, we get that.
We need these easements and purchase executed entirely before supervisors.
The sooner the better, we can eventually be conditioned upon that, since we have a letter of understanding, but you wouldn't be able to sign the plan of donation without.
Yeah, our purchase agreement is executed, there's hand money already involved, and as soon as it gets approved, then the remainder will be paid. So the purchase is basically done. Easements are what I talked with Ron today, Rogers, says it's on that.
Okay. Connie?
I have a couple questions regarding the parking. If you could go back to one of the drawings that has under all the drainage and stuff on it. Okay, that's all.
No, that's it. Yeah. Here's landscaping.
Okay, that looks a little easier to figure out there. Okay, so how far, I know previously you stated that in the southern parking lot, you were moving back that front row parking. How far back is that being moved?
Let's see if I have it off the top of my head.
So there's a guardrail there.
Yeah, I know that.
They're $10 a fire sign guardrail
Okay,
on both sides.
okay.
So if that gives you a visual.
Okay, and then you're removing all the parking in front of the building and you're putting a gravel buffer or whatever it is down there. Are there cars could be permitted to go each way in the northern and southern parking lots through there?
You go back to the, should be the C100 claim sheet, or C300. That'll give the true parking layout there, so you can see where that entrance is. That middle entrance, you'll only be able to go straight to the parking to the
No, I
left.
understand it, but so if you come in there and there's no parking, or you go into the northern parking lot and there's no parking, they currently go through in front of the building between the two lots.
Yeah, with
So-
it pushed back, I don't think you'll.
So now we're gonna have a little more congestion on 19 because you're not gonna be able to go through that area.
Yeah,
If I'm understanding correctly, is that correct?
that's correct, and that's for PennDOT, we don't have any flexibility on that.
Yeah, see, I think about it. You know, once I've traveled through there multiple times in a day and almost get hit multiple times because of that. So they go, can you please go to the northern parking lot? So there, I know there's a major sightline issue there when you're coming out of there from the, coming from the north. So is there anything being done there to adjust to help? I'm guessing probably not, because they're not, they would have to be done with the itself.
Yeah, exactly, yeah, that is what it is, it has been approved, the site instance has been approved by PennDOT.
Okay. So based on what I'm seeing and my personal knowledge of driving that my entire life, I think we're gonna be back to where we were when the Springfield Restaurant Group bought the log cabin, where there's gonna be multiple accidents.
Well-
Especially if you're not gonna be able to go through that. That's what I'm just seeing, you know, you're gonna have more congestion and people stopping and going.
It may be true, Connie, but there's not much that this group can do with
I
PennDOT
understand.
permits. If they've met PennDOT standards, they, you know,
I understand, and I'm just saying, I know there's recommendations the township can make to PennDOT, but since they already received the highway occupancy permit, that's gonna be a bad thing. It's gonna be a problem. And as you know, there's well over 1,000 cars, 1,200 cars a day that come in and out of that intersection.
okay, well, thank you. I share your concern, but, you know, it's just, people are just gonna have to be careful. That's all there is to
Before
it.
somebody gets killed. I had 2 close calls since the last meeting we were here.
Well, I think the parking lot improvements are gonna,
It's not from the
Fix that.
parking lot, it's from people being stopped there, and people coming down their phone 60 mile an hour. I've had people backing out
Well, now we're gonna have improved entrances, sight distance instead of free fall, so I think it's an improvement.
I disagree on that. It's been involved in my entire life. That's, I'm just,
Well, we'll agree to disagree then and move
yeah.
forward.
And unfortunately, it's not good when we fix it.
So we get a motion to approve the final plan contingent.
You want to summarize your motion once again?
So the motion was to recommend approval of the final plan, contingent upon a waiver request being submitted for a slope not to exceed 14%, to the detention facility, and easement being provided for the adjacent property to cover both the parking area and the access to the stormwater facility, and for recommending a fence around the stormwater facility.
Do you want to add to that the consolidation of the two parcels?
You can say consolidation as well, so it's, both land development and consolidation.
I'll make that one.
Second.
I've got a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay,
Who seconded that?
Meredith did. So the motion carries. You guys still have a lot of work to do, but at least one of the administrative check boxes has been taken care of. So now you know what's ahead of you. And eventually, you know, it's all will have to be done before you can move forward. But at least it gives you, you know, light at the end of the tunnel, a path forward to get there. So.
For sure. And everything's underway. We're just making progress. Last time we were here, we didn't have, you know, the letter of understanding or the HOP, so we're the base of the agreement. So
I think the HOP is huge because that was, as you know, there's a lot of people concerned about that parking lot. I think you're making some improvements there. So.
absolutely. Thank you.
Yeah, we did. Okay, we're gonna move on to some administrative items. I'm not so sure we'll get to working on the saldo or the ingress egress this tonight. We might, but there's some administrative items that we have to talk about. First one is coming up with a timeline for completion, the saldo, the PRD, and the zoning. I'd send an email out to give you all a heads up that what we need to talk about that. But since we can't collaborate via email even on schedules, it's considered deliberative. We had to wait until now to talk about. So we lost a whole month. The speed of government is really impressive sometimes. So just get some input. I put together kind of a line chart or a bar chart, which gives me some perspective. But we could maybe switch again. But this thing just collapses whenever I plug something in. So I'm not even gonna do it.
No.
We'll just talk about it. I'll put it.
Email it to her, then she can put it back.
I can. There's no cell service here, but we do have Wi-Fi. Yeah, we have Wi-Fi.
I am connected to the internet. I think.
I don't think we need to look at this. True. Let's just talk about dates. I want to keep this meeting moving on, and if we try fighting the technology in this room, we're just going to delay it. Saldo. Realistically, right now we've basically gone through 2 rounds of revisions. We have a few more things to finish up. Is that right, Tom?
3 pages.
3 pages to finish. Okay. We can get there. Maybe we'll do that tonight. And then I think we're ready. I mean, we've really scrubbed that thing pretty hard. So
I would agree. I mean, I think at that point it's we filed on the needed to be in, and then you can move on.
okay. So that's going to be at least one more meeting. That takes us to July. Finishing that, possibly, we could say we could have a final draft by August. Everybody agree with that? Am I pushing it out too far? Again, we only meet for 2 hours. 2 hours once a month. twice a month if we don't have a lot of administrative things on the agenda. So August is probably a reasonable date. The PRD, if we were to start that in September, my estimate was 3 months on that. That'd be 3 meetings. There's not a lot there.
I agree. The PRD is actually relatively simple.
Mhm.
It's easy.
We've worked on it earlier. I think we can pull in a lot of good PRD material from other townships that has worked well for them. We all have our assignments on what we're specialists or specialties are and what we can contribute. So I put down 3 months for that, which takes us to November. And then zoning, that's where we've got to kind of consolidate everything. I put down 3 months for zoning, but I think that might be optimistic.
That's too optimistic.
Okay.
I think zoning is going to be more like 6 months.
I was thinking 6 too.
Yeah, I think 6 months for zoning. And that's even assuming we try to, have some draft ahead and start working with. It's still a lot of work. Zoning's a lot of work.
One of the thoughts that I had is Bonnie had offered us some technical help. I think she said she had people at the Butler County Planning Commission. What if we were to try and get them to help us take the existing zoning and reformat it into a lot more tables, take a lot of that text and condense that down into tables, existing, just what's there now, so that when we start looking at it, we're not trying to, search around for all this information. It's already consolidated, and we're updating it. It might make things go faster. We could have them work on it while we're doing the PRD.
Question 2. Can we as a group, say 1 or 2 of us, meet with whoever from the county to talk about a framework? That doesn't violate anything? I would think that would be a smart thing to do. That here soon, we meet and find out what their capabilities are. I'm willing to meet, meet them and talk. See what their capabilities are, what they can offer us help-wise on that front to go and get us a draft in place that we can then pick up and it'd be great to have a draft in place that gives us the format we want, the slots we want, and then we hash out the details of this many feet, this many, those kind of things. We hash out the details if they give us the framework in which to put it in. So if we're allowed to do that, I volunteer to be part of that.
Okay.
Makes sense. And then that would help the process.
Yeah, I think
That would get it to 6 months. Beyond that, I think it's a long process.
and they can be working on that while we're still working on the PRD.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We try to meet soon on that to get them rolling on a framework. Yeah.
So that might cut 2 months off.
4 months.
I think you're still gonna be hard pressed. 4 to 6 months, I think.
So maybe I'd take that one till March. That would be 5 months.
When do you want to start that in November?
That one would start, the zoning would start at our meeting in December, if we were to stay on schedule.
March is only 4 months.
December, January, February, March. Okay, so 5, take a staple. All right.
So pretty much a year from now.
Oh, it gets a lot better because that's when we have 3 drafts, right? Okay, I have this other schedule that Meredith can see it, but
I'm smiling.
because then there's a QC review of all 3, right? Then we have to kind of merge them all and make sure that what we have in 1 and 2 doesn't conflict with what's in 3. That's going to be at least a month. We have the solicitor review, the engineer review, Butler County review, Board of Supervisors, other townships.
Most of that's in parallel, though, isn't it?
Well, I have that all in parallel,
Okay.
but it has to happen, and that can be 1 or 2 months. Then we have to resolve all their comments, so we'll have 20 sets of comments from 20 different entities that or at least when I say 20, I'm overestimating. That would be about six different groups that would have comments for us that we would have to address. That gave us 2 months for that. Board of Supervisor review of the final draft with our comment updates. At the same time, we could issue the 30-day public notice, so they can be reviewing it at the same time it's out for the notice. Then the public reviews 30 days. PCOM responds to public comments, and then it goes before the Board of Supervisors. So that takes us to December of 2027, essentially.
When are our terms up?
Mine's up a long time before that. So I can share this with us after the meeting, but it goes. So our part of it, I think we can have done by April, and then I'll have to shift everything to the full schedule, which probably takes us out to the end of 2027 before it's in place. And that's why we're also recommending that as other critical issues come up, the Ingress, Egress, the data center, we're talking about the recreational campgrounds, things like that I think are more likely to happen. We should have we should have ordinances in place for those. And if we divert from what we're working on, we get those in place as standalones. I know the Board of Supervisors does not seem, well, they seem to be mixed. Some of them are in favor of doing the standalones, and some of them would rather the whole package, we get that done as soon as we can and get that in place. But as soon as we can is December of 2027, I think a lot can happen between now and then. So that's going to have to be a discussion we have with them what they want. And I think we should, as a group, should recommend that we're going to march forward with these documents, but as things come up, whether they propose them or we find the need somehow or another, we should stop what we're doing and work on those, which then get built into the final ordinance anyway.
My only comment with that is that we shouldn't change course. We have to hear the direction of supervisors. They need to ask us to change course, which of course we change.
Understood. And I'm all for that.
We aren't, our body is not wanting to go and say, oh, let's throw this new ordinance in place. Our body is wanting to develop an ordinance that we've been passed and asked to do by supervisors.
I've been asked to send them a memo with the schedule, which I'm going to do, and I'll send it out for you guys to all review it before I send it in. I'll have the schedule attached to it,
Okay.
and I'll list some options, right? One of them is proceed on with the blinders, and whatever happens, we just allow to progress under current ordinances. And another one is we try to be proactive and get ordinances in place as needed, and this schedule will slip accordingly as we do.
I'm good either way. I just want them to give the direction, not us to make the direction.
Well, we don't have that authority.
Exactly.
So I think we're all.
And do they have any expectations in mind when they made this request? Like,
I don't think they did. They were just looking at, how long is it going to take? And again, how do you define that? I can tell them we'll be done by February. Okay, that sounds great.
Yeah.
They don't realize there's a tail on there of there's 20 more steps of public review, county review, public meetings, the whole thing, and I think I'm somewhat optimistic on that, which takes us out almost another 9 to 10 months. So,
Knowing how government works and everything.
yeah,
That's probably pretty optimistic.
the speed of government. I mean, we can't talk to each other unless we wait a month
And
and
I
have a
was
meeting.
actually, like this fall, we
It's
said
true.
about getting it done around December, we got holidays and that kind of thing too, whether, I don't know, if they just Christmas fall, this year, New Year's and stuff.
Well, we did move our last December meeting up so that we weren't meeting in between Christmas and New Year's like last year. Okay, so, if you recall, we did move that one. Okay, well, I'll put this in a memo. I'll attach the schedule. You guys can look at it, make some comments, and send it back. Christine, since we did have this public meeting on exactly this, sending this email around for review and collaboration is not breaking it. Yeah, it's the supervisor's decision.
Are we able to, if we decide as a group, we want to spend more time on it, do like a longer workshop with Not that we want to.
Did you leave your form there?
All right, and then I also include in that memo the potential to have support on the zoning, doing that proactively. So I'll give them all the options and see how they want to proceed. If there's any, I don't know if it would cost us anything to have county help us or not. I didn't talk to Bonnie about that. But another thing, as far as cost, trying to save the township some money. Our workshop meetings, we have Michelle's counterpart, Jeff, come to those meetings. And I don't know that he's of much help to us. He really hasn't been contributing much. We haven't asked him for much. I think if we, no, it's not no fault of his. The supervisors do not have a solicitor at their new workshop meetings. And I think I'm going to recommend, and get everybody's opinion, but that we do not need the solicitor support at our workshops. If there's legal questions that come up, we can save them to our official monthly meeting, pass them on to Michelle. We call her. But I mean, I feel like, you know, he's there listening, he's willing to jump in, but we're not utilizing his service. I mean, we didn't know starting out when we first started how much technical and legal support we were going to need. I think we still need the technical support. So Tom, you're not going anywhere, buddy. We need you.
He knows everything about it.
Well, Tom's value is twofold. Number one, is an engineer, and number two is historic knowledge of the township for decades. So yes, that's a resource that needs to stick around.
So if everybody's okay with that, I'll include that in there also.
I'm good with that.
As far as time goes, adding another monthly workshop, I don't think anybody has that time to give. We're all volunteers. You know, we were supposed to meet one day a month. I've convinced these guys that meeting 2 would be good for the cause. I don't think I can get 3 out of anybody. I can't give it. I know Dale's already talked to me and said he doesn't have it. Would we be adverse to staying an extra half an hour during our workshops and possibly some of our meetings till 9 o'clock? We try to get out here by 8:30, but would anybody be adverse to staying perhaps an extra half an hour and try to get a little bit more done so that?
As long as nobody gets upset if somebody asks you to early.
Right. I agree with you on that, and I'm very accommodating. You know,
That's like, for me tonight, we get done here, I gotta drive down to Somerset, Somerset.
I'm going to
Who's
clean
going
it up.
Well, there we go. So just, you know, I'm planning on staying till, if it's an extra half hour, most nights will be okay, as long as nobody gets
Yeah, most
my
nights.
panties in a bunch about
So I like to get out here as soon as possible.
So,
Did you start earlier? Did you ever start earlier?
that gets hard for folks that work all day. We get here after that meeting.
I think you could just send out an email before the meeting asking who can stay till 9, and then we just go based on that. That way we don't have to, you don't feel bad if you have to go somewhere whenever you can't make it.
Well,
And, yeah.
or we just have a standing rule that when people have to go, they have to go. You know, if someone says, I've got to drive to Cleveland tonight, and we leave by 8 o'clock, okay. Anybody can stay, we're gonna keep moving, and we're gonna try to finish that up.
especially if the regular meeting, or whatever you want to call it, if the voting is done before we get into stuff, and we have the quorum, you don't need the quorum to discuss events, so.
I'm not proposing that for tonight, but I'd just like to have that as an option on the table for.
Good.
Well, I think you've been doing a good job of like keeping the flow going. When we're on a roll, we kind of push through it. We're at a natural bridge plan, we kind of break. So I think if we just follow that and start right, that might be sticking around a little longer.
I perceived that our group to kind of run out of gas around 8:30, so maybe it seems to be the normal breaking point, but maybe we'll put a little extra in the tank and try to go to 9 o'clock. So as long as we're agreeable to that, we'll do it when we're at a point where we're breaking, we can get something, you know, be more productive and efficient to just move forward. So just appreciate your cooperation on that. So those are really the only administrative items that I have. Does anybody else have something to bring up that I haven't thought about? Okay, I'll take that as a no. We do have some time, even if we stay. If you guys that are traveling tonight need to leave, you can. But Tom, do you want to try and get those last 3 pages done on the saldo, and maybe we can get a final draft of that?
Well, did you want to hit the Ingress?
Yeah, I thought we were done with that. I thought we finished that the last.
We were just on, we were at a voting, a non-voting meeting to be able to recommend it, so
Right.
the issue was what the number was,
Okay.
and then.
Yeah, that's probably a good idea. We are there, and we weren't able to vote at our last meeting. Bob wasn't here. We had deliberation on the number of homes, and we moved it to 50. The maximum based on the fire code's 100. There's no safety factor built into that. That's the maximum. We thought because we're more rural, we're further away from services, it takes longer for our volunteer fire companies and emergency responders to either mobilize, get to the firehouse and get the equipment here, or in the case of our EMS, actually come out this far, that we would add, we'd factor that a little harder than maybe some of the other townships that are closer to emergency services. So that was our logic behind that.
Yeah, we just want to have a reason, like, picking a number, so it's kind of arbitrary based on that. Before we did it, we came to compromise, we weren't based on anything of like, a number, we just picked a number. So after we realized that 100 was kind of a recommendation of the fire department, or whatever, the reason we used it.
So, yeah, the question was raised, Jackson, somebody had mentioned Jackson, I thought Jackson Township had a standard in their
You knew I
ordinance.
was getting thirsty.
So I talked to Jackson, he never had a standard, they don't have a standard. I mentioned what we were doing, so I thought that was a little bit lower. If they were developing a number, it might have been 150 or 200 homes. But that's their perspective of what they've seen in the issue more development, essentially, than the township has. So, but that was the only comment that we got back.
2 Wednesdays ago, I was coming from Union Brothers. Okay, went down for dinner, coming back at 8:30, and that new townhouse plan, which is right down there, I forget, they had some kind of fire. And it was about halfway back. They had a ladder truck that was blocking the whole road. They had 2 other big fire trucks. Nobody was getting out. Now they have another road that goes around the buildings. But if that would have happened a little further up, nobody was leaving. And those trucks are big, and the roads aren't that wide, and there's not that much space, So I really think that having some kind of number is important.
I mean, they're looking at like an emergency access road. So if you were to go, right now that is in their plan where you notice on the cutoff, like Seafitters, there's a little gravel drive that disappears, and that gravel drive goes down. Theoretically, you get emergency vehicles down there, but it's not a travel way, so the car most likely will go down there. That's what they seem to be interested in. So you can always get an emergency vehicle out.
I'd even be okay if you get the residents out. If the emergency vehicles can get in from the main road, and the people that have to evacuate in their SUVs and pickup trucks and what have you can go down a gravel road, I'm okay with that too. But I know we're trying to avoid that because that's not ideal, optimum. Nobody maintains them, and when you need them 10 years from now, 20 years from now, it's all grown over. So I think we should push for that. So we landed on 50 last week, and it was contingent on your agreement also.
Obviously, I think 100 is more appropriate number. I bet I'll consider 100 units with no issue. But by the same token, I'm not gonna draw out in the sand. This isn't the sort of a die or whatever. They're all gonna die. So if 50 is what the consensus is, I can live with 50. known and talked about is to, okay, if someone cannot get second access, and they run 60 or 70 homes in development, and they can show a good case as to how they cannot get something, I would be willing to do a waiver of that requirement easily up to 100. And as long as people are willing to consider those kinds of things, you know, it makes a lot of sense to really push people to get a second access. I have no problem with that. But if they just cannot do it, I'm willing to do a waiver up to 100 if it makes sense.
The other thing I was thinking, Tom kind of mentioned this to me, and made me think, density. So small, in these tight townhouse areas, maybe we keep it at 50. But if you've got 200 acres and someone's putting 50 homes in there, 60 homes, you know, it's more spread out and there's plenty of room. Perhaps that ability to evacuate and that ability to get emergency equipment in there isn't as critical than those really tight developments. So then you start putting in, you know, based on density, based on acreage or something like that. Probably density is better than, you know, a plan of homes. I've been in several plans of homes. Maybe 50 is not, it's too low, but in these townhouse communities that are real tight, packed in there, maybe we do that. So is there a sliding scale that would work?
A sliding scale is always going to be tough, because a sliding scale is always going to suffer from, you've got, say you've got 100 acres, and you put all of your density in a third, and you leave 2/3 of these wetlands and everything else. Now that's going to factor into the density, so that where the buildings are is really dense, but overall the density is not that much. Now, if you take that same number of units and put them over 100, that looks quite different. So it's going to be really tough to come to a measure of density, because both of those numbers, 100 units sitting on 100 acres, all clustered in 30 is dense. But if it's spread over the 100, isn't as dense. But it's the same number of size. So it's a tough measure.
The other thing that realistically, I mean, if you have 20 plans in Lancaster Township over 50 units in it, like that's a lot, right? So we're not talking about this is going to be recurring issue over and over and over again. I'm more than willing to, you know, conditionally waiver something if they cannot physically put a second entrance in if they want to go over 50 hours. I have no problem with that.
But question, do you put that in the ordinance that if, you know, we're willing to give up to 100 if you cannot? Okay, that's so the 100 is more like our knowledge and not.
But what we do put in the ordinance, we already have that some, I can't remember the exact wording, about something that boulevards and other needs. So it comes under a nebulous phrase right there that would allow waivers for special conditions. But you don't specify at all, that's what I was 100. We don't do that in ordinance. If you just have a fluff line in there that allows us the liberty to do that.
So what's written in the ordinance now is, if it exceeds X housing units, whatever that number is, to 50, then unless there's a waiver, you can get a waiver due to topography hardship, no other access to arterial reflector roads or sufficient frontage. And then look at alternates such as boulevards, that would work with the ability to request that waiver. That's what it's written.
So it doesn't allow anything other than boulevards?
It says, then alternatives such as boulevards. So it's open.
So,
It's not
do you think it's
saying-
open enough that we could just say, yeah, your topography is such that one entrance is all makes sense, that's what we're gonna get? You think?
And when it's not a shell.
What do you read? Okay, if you can weigh in on, is that open enough that if we go and say, yes,
It's paragraph C1, it should be the same in C1 is single access limitation, and number 1 is the 2 the end of that paragraph is where in the case of hardship, they can request that. Again, it just says, due to poverty, hardship, no other access to any other roads or insufficient funds.
Is that what we consider a recommended alternative to the second? Is that the language you have that?
Right.
It's fine, but it might be a little bit better.
What would you recommend to allow the one? So mainly in this case here would be, you don't have access to another road, but no frontage, or your topography is such that you just can't make it work. To allow us a reasonable path to get away is essentially what it is.
Right, and I don't think it worked, I mean, that's what you're saying, that's what you're saying right now, right? You're saying that if it can't work, then we will consider a recommended alternative.
They can recommend a waiver, and you would review that waiver and see if it's justified.
And you, and
That's something you're, yeah. Yeah, I think this is what you want, this is what you're trying to say. I see you're gonna have to sell it on the 15th, based on what you've seen, because again, I haven't asked for your local review yet by the board of supervisors, and when we do, we will. But I, just from what I've seen in other places, it's pretty low, but we can justify it. My thought is always, as long as we can justify it, we get sued by someone like Tom. And doesn't make a thing, I just initially was,
I need some of those too, but I don't have the rules to understand that.
Do we get sued if we allow them options like boulevards? Do we get sued if we allow them waivers? Or, I mean, I think if we're hardliners, say, nope, 50s and under, we're not budging.
right, you give yourself some flexibility, and if it's truly a reasonable request, you're gonna recommend a waiver. And I like that your developers so far seem to, I mean, again, I don't want to chase it, and it's either one cut over backwards, keep you guys happy. What I've seen in my 6 months or 7 months here, which is a nice change for these little places.
To me, it's a solid requirement, the supervisors can allow it. The zoning requirement, the zoning hearing board, that's where we get into hardships, if it's an outside agency, to me, I don't know if you want that. I think you want to control the supervisors and you as a planning commission to say, this is our ordinance goal, this is your unique circumstance, and we can work with that. I agree. I think it gives you a lot more teeth that way, throw the zoning in.
And I can see a challenge not coming to after we deny a reasonable waiver. We're not gonna deny a reasonable waiver.
Okay. As far as the justifications go, do we have to have something written down or outlined it somewhere, or just?
It's gonna happen.
The supervisor would need something to act on. Once your recommendation would be 50, you're done with it. You give it to them, and then the question will be, legal review is done, and the engineer review comes in and says, how can you justify this? It would be, you look at the ITT, you look at fire code, and say this.
Okay, and that's what we said. But what I'm wondering is 8 years from now, we have 3 new supervisors. The other guys are long gone. They don't know why it was approved or how it was approved. All they know is they're trying to defend 50, and there's no justification. And by then, we're using GAI and not GAN fund. No offense, but things happen.
I agree. I mean, there would be the advantage of that process is there would be a recommendation to say we recommend this. So you have background to that. They can ignore that recommendation and say they're going to make it X. But then that's what we have.
Okay. Well, I think we should recommend 50, and if the supervisors want to bump that up some, then they can do that.
So are you good with the 100%?
Yeah, well, again, I probably will have some tweaks. Once the board of supervisors says, Michelle, please look at this and file a legal review, I'm sure we'll have some tweaks. But I like what you're trying to say. I think that the gist of it is conveyed, so. Yes, I might make a little change for my change, but.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Is the wording that you guys are going for that there needs to be an ingress and egress for every 50 homes, or is it just there needs to be more than one after 50?
More than one.
More than one after.
So if someone came in
there's also limitations on like number of homes on a cul-de-sac, right?
Yeah.
So they can't have a cul-de-sac 2 miles long, which would circumvent the rules for that.
And it also includes provisions for phasing. So if they only have like 50 homes now, but add another 100 later, it would include provisions for that.
Well, then I'll try to make a motion. Do we just have any question on that?
Make the motion, yep.
This is around 50 based on the fact that our location and proximity to emergency services, we felt like that was a good number to come up with. And that's our justification.
And so that will be the formal egress draft ordinance that will get pushed to supervisors. Okay. Is our recommendation. It's the approval of the draft ordinance that we recommend. Okay, second. Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Motion carries. Meredith.
It's a Joe and Aaron.
So my goal is to get,
Actually, if you're next time, it's your turn.
my goal is to be accommodating and get Dale and Bob out of here in a timely manner when it's still light outside. So I'm gonna make a motion that we adjourn. Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Oh, public comment.
Public comment. Anybody have public comment? Okay. Motion carries.